Hello, welcome to Every Horror Movie on Netflix, the show where we watch, review, and discuss every horror movie on Netflix. Again, I'm here, I'm Chris, and I'm here with...
I'm Patrick, and if you're listening to this podcast, I'm probably already fucking dead.
Ha ha ha. Oh, well played. That's a reference.
That's a reference to the film.
I don't get it.
It's a reference to the film that you watched that we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Oh, I'm Steven, and, oh, fuck. I don't have anything good, guys. That was a great introduction, Patrick, even though I didn't get it. I'm just Steven. I'm just here. I'm hanging out.
You may or may not have watched the movie that we're talking about today.
I faded in and out, I'll be honest, of this movie. I mean, it was in front of me the entire time, and I tried to devote attention to it, but my brain just kind of shut off.
I watched the movie, and I feel like I may or may not have watched it.
Well, you guys are talking over women. Elizabeth hasn't had a chance to introduce herself yet.
I'm Elizabeth. I was racking my brain to think of a reference, but I'm just going to stick with Elizabeth for now.
Great.
So what movie did we watch this week?
We watched The Astronaut's Wife, starring Johnny Depp and Charlize Theron. Is it Theron or Theron? How do you guys swing on that?
I say Theron.
I say Theron.
That's how I swing.
All right.
Although I would like to start saying Theron now.
1999, I would say it's not really a horror movie, more of a sci-fi thriller. It's about an astronaut who comes home from a mission. There's an explosion, and he's a little different when he gets back, and his wife is just gradually sort of goes crazy, I think. It's basically Rosemary's Baby with an astronaut. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it's fair to say.
Well, you think she goes crazy, or she realizes that there's something wrong with him?
I feel like it's a little bit of both. Like she feels like she's going crazy, so it's played for suspense. Maybe?
Yeah.
I feel like she's mostly being gaslighted. That was the impression I got.
Sure. Yeah, I agree with that.
But we should note today we're breaking the order.
Breaking order.
And why are we doing that? Who do we have to thank for that?
Who do we have to thank for the astronaut's wife?
Me. And I would like a big thank you from everybody.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
So last episode we spun our new wheel, the Wheel of Death, which we're going to do every 4 episodes, and so every 5th episode will be a movie that we pick from the Netflix catalog, and whoever the wheel lands on gets to pick the episode.
And luckily for all, it was me.
So Elizabeth, I know you were super excited to spin the wheel. Why? What drew you to the astronaut's wife?
Yeah.
Well, here's why.
A window into your mind.
A window into my mind. You won't believe what exists in there.
I'm ready.
Well, so many old things.
It's like a window into my mind. Yeah, well, I actually picked this movie because I was like, a movie with 2 people that we know can act really well. Because I feel like so many of these movies, we've been like, who are these fucking kids? Dragged them out of community theater to like act in this film. And we spend so much time complaining about that. So I thought, well, why not have a movie where that's just off the table? Where we know at least...
Oh, you fucked up.
Well, I'm telling you about my thought process.
I'm kidding.
Where we know that the actors are good. And also the movie had wife in the title, which means there's going to be a woman in it. So I picked it.
But I'm still not sure it passes the so-called Bechdel test.
I'm surprised you brought that up before I did.
Yeah. I guess maybe not.
Maybe not.
Disappointing. You know, for a movie called The Astronaut's Wife, you expect to sympathize with the wife and really like get an insight into her predicament. I didn't. I felt like she was kind of a cipher for most of this movie.
I disagree with that. I thought, you know, Elizabeth mentioned having some actual decent actors in this movie, and I was not a big fan of the movie, but I mean, it benefits a lot from having Charlize in the lead role, in my opinion. Like
she's not given much to do except
not given much to do, but she acts the hell out of it.
Yeah, she's a good actress.
Yeah,
she didn't do anything for me. I'm a fan of her, but like if you compare this to any of the great Charlize Theron performances, like Prometheus.
Dude, this is a prequel to Prometheus. I said that to Elizabeth while we were watching.
Shit, I like this movie now. But you know what? I want to say something about Johnny Depp, because I miss Johnny Depp, because he's not given a lot to work with in this movie. But for a long time, in like the 90s and early 2000s, Johnny Depp was like really good at like playing people.
Yeah.
And then he just turned into a cartoon character.
I have some thoughts on this. Elizabeth, go ahead.
Well, the weird thing I was just going to say is in this movie, he's an astronaut and an engineer, but inexplicably, the script that he's given, he like speaks in this sort of odd Southern accent and like uses incorrect grammar all the time. And it's interesting that he acts it well, but it's just it's sort of a conflict between.
He seems like such a bumpkin.
Yeah, he seems like he says like, oh, well, ain't that cute, honey? And like
Janet Maslin in the New York Times said that he's 1 part NASA, 2 parts Elvis Presley. And I was like, that's perfect. I would say there's a part Val Kilmer in there as well with the haircut.
And the haircut, he spends the whole movie looking like Bieber. I was just thinking Bieber.
Look, speaking of the performances, I have more thoughts on Johnny Depp, and I doubt we're going to get to him today because we do have limited time. But I felt, did anybody feel like Johnny Depp's character, the astronaut, really changed? Like, we only see him briefly before the incident in space. I felt like he was just as creepy and like remote and distant in that opening scene.
I disagreed. I actually did like the way they kind of built some chemistry between the two characters. I mean, because like you just said, I mean, there is literally one scene between the two of them before he goes to space and gets fucked by some mysterious like alien or some accident. I mean, like gets fucked over, not like is penetrated by an alien.
Well,
I mean, maybe he was. We don't know.
It's a short scene too. It's only a minute or so. It's like a minute and 10 seconds.
They're just in bed.
I want to see something really quick. It's a bold move when you begin your movie with a scene from a better movie.
What movie were they watching?
Yeah, it was a Cary Grant movie. I don't know the title, but
because they're watching a movie on TV, right?
Anyway, sorry to derail your thought there, but I felt like that was worth mentioning.
No, I mean, I actually did think they created decent chemistry, at least for a minute-long scene, as well as anybody could.
I thought it was hilarious. Like I just like thought they were mismatched from the beginning. I mean, God, that fucking line that sticks in my head. There are a few in this movie. He says to her at one point while they're talking, she's like, I'm sad that you're leaving, and then he just like abruptly says, "You like fruit?" And she just like turns and kisses him to get her to the blanket, and then he says, referring to his penis, I believe, "Ain't that a peach?"
That's right.
That was hilarious.
Right. And then as they start to sort of tumble around together under the covers, then we cut to the like mission control announcement of "we are go for takeoff," something like that. As soon as they start to fuck,
and that's how he learns an astronaut. They don't discuss it in bed. That's like the cheapest way to like sort of set up his profession, I think.
What if one of the babies that she ends up carrying was conceived in that moment, and the other one was conceived when he came back, and then they fought in the womb because one of the babies was an alien baby?
Dude, that would be a whole new movie.
Well, it's possible. Have you ever heard the what did she say? The story of the
prince,
the prince whose beloved prince. What is it? The prince. I wrote this down. Do you know the story of the princess whose beloved prince dies in battle? Who's heard that myth?
Doesn't she get like shut down initially, and like the conversation goes elsewhere, and then she's like, "But I still really want to tell the story." And she just tells the story.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we can all relate here to wanting to say something, and the conversation doesn't go that way, but you force it back in.
We wouldn't have a show without that tendency.
We wouldn't have a show.
This was one of 2 movies I was going to pick if the wheel had landed on my name.
Really?
And it's because, yes, absolutely. I thought we talked about this after
you
we
told
spun
me
the
that.
wheel.
I don't remember.
I guess I just told Elizabeth. Because I remember when this movie came out, I believe it was the same year as Sleepy Hollow, which I was a big fan of. Around that time, how old was I? Like 11, 12? I was a big Tim Burton fan, big Johnny Depp fan because I was a Tim Burton fan. I sought out all of his movies, from Arizona Dream to Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Just like, shit, I should
Not Nick of Time, though. You missed Nick of Time.
No, I did miss Nick of Time. I got Nick of Time on VHS from the library, and I liked it. But I don't remember it very well.
Oh, perfect.
So I'd love to see it again with you. Chris is a big Nick of Time fan.
Well, that was my pet peeve in like high school because like all the girls in high school were like, "I love Johnny Depp. I love Johnny Depp. My favorite actor is Johnny Depp." And I'd be like, "Have you seen Nick of Time?" And they'd be like, "What?"
They'd be like, "No, I saw Pirates of the Caribbean."
Anyway, I was just like, if you're going to consider yourself a Johnny Depp fan, you need to see the definitive Johnny Depp movie, which is John Badlam's Nick of Time.
I did enjoy seeing Johnny Depp play a kind of sinister character in this movie because he doesn't do that too often, and it was sort of fun.
He is good at being sinister. Also, regardless of how well he acted, he is like he used to be so sexy. I would marry him, alien and all.
It's really. You guys really did appreciate the performances of this movie. I thought they were utter garbage. I mean, Charlize Theron, I give her some credit because she doesn't have a lot to do, but like she's so lackluster. The only scene in which I really felt any energy from her is that ridiculous dance scene where she's home alone in the suite and like dancing around.
I thought she
eating snacks out of the fridge.
Poured her heart and soul into this.
Wow.
Wow, I didn't read it that way.
I was feeling it.
I feel like Johnny Depp...
It would have been so much worse. As shitty as it is, it would have been so much worse without her.
I mean, I get the sense that Johnny Depp is like a troubled person in real life, and so when he's presented with a character that has to be like moderately normal, that probably is difficult for him because he doesn't know how to act.
Those are the greatest challenges.
Those are the biggest challenges.
This movie's based on a true story about Johnny Depp being shitty to his wife.
Yeah, how long do you think it's going to be before Johnny Depp's career is ruined?
I mean,
by
dude, his wife already left. Like Amber Heard left him like 2 years ago because he beat her to a pulp, and everyone was just like, "We love Johnny Depp."
She probably was trying to abort his alien baby.
Probably.
So he
her
just
mistake.
Backhanded her across the bathroom.
I am horrified by the discussions we have on this topic literally every week.
Well, anyway, so he comes back and he's off. But sort of. Like, I don't really feel like they did a good job of not making it that obvious.
I feel like they did a bad job by not making it obvious.
I'm glad
because
they
I feel like
didn't.
there's nothing... Like, he's fucking weird from the beginning. You know, like, just because it's Johnny Depp, I kind of... And he's got this ridiculous accent and this haircut, I have no sense of, like, what is normal for him to begin with.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He can't be normal, so it's difficult for him to imply normalcy and then a lack thereof, because he never had normalcy. But I think it was nice that he didn't come back and he wasn't... Like, you know, nowadays in so many movies, they, like, make your eyes a different color when you, like, freak out or something. And, like, they didn't do any of that.
I mean, one of the most terrifying things is having a loved one who becomes not themselves, especially in a horror movie, and possession and stuff like that. So it's very fertile ground for a plot like this, but we just don't get to know him enough as a normal guy before his alien time. And also, once he's alien, there's like, you know, he goes to outer space, comes under alien influence, comes back. There's no like build. You know?
Dude, that whole scene is so weird.
It's so
when
quick.
the actual incident happens, because it's on TV. Like, she first discovers that his spaceship something has gone wrong with his spaceship by seeing the news on TV, and somehow we find out later the actual incident when they lose contact with the astronauts took literally 2 minutes. 2 minutes. And in that time, it gets on TV. NASA is at her house to collect her, and then presumably, I mean, it seems like it could have taken place within the space of an hour. The spaceship is back on the ground, and she's watching a feed of it at NASA from inside the spaceship, just watching like the view of the landing.
That's a cool fucking shot, actually. So you see Charlize Theron in silhouette standing in front of this massive screen that's like the size of the wall in this room of like the craft coming back down onto the runway. Yeah. And like it keeps zooming in on her silhouette, and like the screen is dominated by the POV of the aircraft coming out of the runway, and like I actually got like a little bit of a rush out of it.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, they're also just orbiting Earth, fixing a satellite. So like they weren't that far away.
No, it's like driving from Ipsy to Ann Arbor. It's
it's
just a short.
little jar.
I mean, I don't know how long. I mean, how long would it take?
I mean, like re-entry to Earth. I mean, it's not that long. You land in like 20 minutes once you are back in the atmosphere.
It probably wouldn't take that long. They weren't going to the moon or anything.
They're just orbiting Earth.
But did it not?
Guys are really hung up on.
Did it not seem like the whole thing happened?
No,
really
that happened
fast?
super quick. Well, even I said when I was watching the movie, they're like, we lost contact for 2 minutes. I'm like, what the fuck? I lose contact with Patrick for like 6 hours every day, and I'm not
he's
worried.
getting fucked by an alien.
Yeah, like what? 2 minutes? Who gives a shit? I don't see Chris for like a week and a half. It's fine.
So like they get back, and Johnny Depp's partner, well, not partner, but his like
Commander
co-worker,
Shrek.
Captain Shrek,
played by Rosemary's Baby connection here is John Cassavetes' son, which I thought was kind of bizarre, and that was a choice they made. So I don't know. That was kind of weird.
Wait, what Cassavetes? What Cassavetes?
Nick.
Oh, like Notebook director Nick Cassavetes?
That's what he's known for?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was like a Rosemary's Baby callback in the casting. I mean, also
that was Captain Shrek.
Yeah, and Charlize Theron.
Also,
has
his
like
name in the movie is
Mia
actually
Farrow haircut.
Shrek, but
it's funny to call him Shrek.
Yeah, Charlize definitely undergoes a Rosemary's Baby sort of transformation, they at least try to evoke that. But like what you said, why so blatantly evoke a better movie?
I don't know, because the basic concept is rife for reinterpretation, right? So, the thing I love about Rosemary's Baby is the simplicity of it. It's like, she's in like a relatively new relationship, first apartment, and like immediately she starts to distrust her husband, and she's pregnant, and everyone plays it up as her hormones, and it's just like a something that anybody who's been in like a long-term relationship can relate to. I guess especially if you have planned to have kids or have had kids. So this movie takes that basic premise and really doesn't do anything different with it except add some like stylistic flourishes.
I didn't think of Rosemary's Baby when I was watching that. Watching it, I mean, I can see what you guys are saying, but I didn't.
Even when you started chanting "Alien Baby."
Well, yeah, I mean, you could say that of a lot of movies that involve women having weird-ass babies. Like, most of the Alien movies.
Well, she has that real short haircut, and at one point her face is all, like, weird because she's been, like, having a bad time.
There's a moment where I was like, that's like Mia Farrow when her face looks like chalk. Like, Charlize has that moment in this movie.
The haircut, this has nothing to do with anything, but every time that Johnny Depp does anything with her hair, it's so weird. He, like, washes her hair at one point and just, like, sort of weirdly strokes it in the bathtub. Or they're laying on the couch one time and he's just sort of, like, weirdly playing with, like, one strand of the hair. It's so... It's just
very 1999.
It's a
the
weird...
haircut is very tiny.
Well, the haircut is, but the way Johnny Depp plays with it was a weird element unto it.
The alien's from a planet where they eat hair.
Yeah, he just wanted the hair.
It's the food.
It would have been more interesting if Johnny Depp had left with like shoulder-length hair for his mission and gone back. Like Buzz.
Food is the cash crop on his world.
But anyway, so like his partner, Captain Shrek, comes back, and like they're both kind of like they're like doing a bunch of tests on these guys because they're like, we lost contact, something weird happened, we want to make sure they're okay. And Johnny Depp is given a clean bill of health, and his comrade is like, they're like, well, he's a little bit older, but he's also fine. But within like a few minutes, they're at a party and he freaks out and dies.
Which was one of a few sequences in this movie that I actually was impressed with. The My Way sequence. They're playing
very suspenseful.
The Johnny Rotten version of...
Is it Johnny Sid Vicious.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Sid Vicious version of My Way at the party. People are singing karaoke to it, and it just... I mean, it's, of course, sort of an off-putting song in the first place, or... I mean, it depends on your point of view, but it builds in a nice way, and I enjoyed that scene.
But what karaoke machine has that version of that song?
I don't know, but
also,
I want to use it.
Nobody's singing it. It is just, they're just playing that song, and there are people pretending to sing it, but it's clearly Sid Vicious's voice.
But here's my question.
I just found that amusing.
Maybe they just are supposed to have it on the stereo and everybody's singing along. I don't know.
Why did he die and Johnny Depp didn't die? Like, why did he suddenly die?
Because we have to up the stakes somehow or another, I guess.
He was older.
Oh, because his heart couldn't handle it.
Oh, right, yeah.
Well, this movie left me... I mean, because again, we've established that like it's pretty easy to see it as sort of a Rosemary's Baby sort of ripoff, or that's the template for it. And I kept hoping that there would be some kind of like new sort of social commentary added to it because this movie was made like 30 years later, and I don't know. There was a scene early on where the Astronauts' Wives Club are talking, and they Shrek's wife says to Johnny Depp's wife, like, they were up there for 2 minutes and we don't know what happened. And like Charlize Theron is like, yeah, I know. And then the other wife is like, I just wish they would tell us what was going on up there, what they were doing. And I was like, oh man, maybe this is going to be like a homosexual allegory or something.
Oh,
didn't pay
that
off.
would have been more interesting.
Well, there is a shot of the Twin Towers. So there's your social commentary.
Yes. Well, this movie's full of it. So there's a scene later where so Johnny Depp gets involved in like this like aeronautics company that's developing some kind of super plane.
McLaren, which is a real company.
And Tom Noonan is involved. Love to see Tom Noonan.
McLaren is an Air Force base, I think.
It's also a
that's
health
what I'm thinking.
system.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah.
I don't remember if this was connected, but they wind up at a black tie benefit. And there's a scene where Charlize Theron is talking to the woman hosting the event, and she says, I said this to Patrick earlier, is it feels like it's meant to be played for comedy, and it feels like, oh, this movie's like edgy, and there's some social commentary beneath the surface. But she says, I used to be into famine, now I'm into AIDS.
Yes.
Yeah. Something else that seems like it has to be funny at first is the sex scene where
Dude, that was a great sex scene.
All right, before we get to the sex scene, though, like, yeah, because you're talking about this 2 minutes thing, and no one knows what the 2 minutes is. And, like, so much of this movie could have been solved if, like, the two characters ever had a conversation, which I guess is the point. They don't have a conversation, but everyone's like, what happened up there 2 minutes? And then every time they actually ask someone what happened in those 2 minutes, something like a sex scene happens.
Right.
Well, I mean, so Johnny Depp's character, I think this is apparent in the screenplay, and I think this does work, is just kind of like cold and evasive and doesn't want to talk about it or changes the subject or just like fucks her to get her to shut up, which is like, I kind of like that. Like, this is about an abusive relationship.
Chris told me that when he saw this movie at 11 years old, this was the most arousing sex scene he'd ever watched.
I didn't say arousing.
Yeah, can I talk about the sex scene?
The one at
yet?
the black tie benefit?
Yeah.
Okay.
I assume that's the
I said
one.
the most explicit.
Explicit.
Yes.
Okay, well.
Tell me more.
I don't remember being aroused.
I mean, it is fairly sexy. There's sort of a one take shot as he moves his hand down her body, and I mean, it's also a little weirdly rapey because he grabs her wrist pretty tightly, and it feels
scene, isn't
uncomfortable.
she trying to confront him about the
She says,
change?
"Tell me what
Yes.
happened," and he
And then
starts
he
to
just
fucking
pulls her aside.
and he's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
and he's like running his
Starts
hand, and he's like,
groping her.
"It was warm, like your vagina."
Yes,
But-
and I was like, I laughed
No, he
out
says
loud.
cunt. He
no,
says cunt.
No,
he
he
says
says
vagina.
vagina.
No, he says cunt.
No,
He says cunt, and I said out loud,
No,
never
version-
call your wife's vagina a cunt.
We saw the version that said vagina because we had the subtitles on, and it said
Oh,
vagina.
well,
Well,
it says
don't
cunt
read
in
the
the movie.
subtitles. It said, yeah.
No, that he said vagina.
What version were you watching?
I don't know. We watched it on
we
Netflix.
watched it on Netflix.
All right,
There must be
it's 2
some...
against 2, but he definitely says cunt, and I was like, I paused it
definitely
and
does.
rewound it. I was like, holy
He
fuck.
says "come" a few minutes
No.
later. He says
the warmth of your cum.
he says the warmth of your cum.
Ooh.
And you guys probably mistook it as for the warmth of your cunt.
Oh, I guess that says something about us.
And Chris,
Oh,
you know,
guys thought you heard... or maybe we thought we heard cum.
I read
and they
cum
heard...
too.
Why are you watching
Oh,
this
yeah,
with
it
the
just-
subtitles
Because it
on?
was
Because they were
quiet,
mumbling.
and we
What?
were
It was
eating.
the sound mix was really fucking bad. I
Yeah.
have to say, like I had a lot of trouble because I watched it on an iPad. It was not my choice.
The dialogue, yeah, there was a lot of just mumbling, so we turned on the subtitles. And it said vagina and it said cum.
Well, whatever. But so
It's spelled it C-U-
but those
C-O-M-E,
lines,
though.
those lines sound hilarious.
yeah,
Like,
and because
I
us
laughed
as
out
the
loud.
audience, we're actually interested in what happened out there, and we're like,
Right.
yeah, astronaut, husband, dude,
Tell us.
what
Felt
happened
like
in
the
those 2
warmth of
minutes.
your cum.
And he's like, I'll tell you. Okay, I'll finally tell you. Takes her by the hand, takes her away from the party. You're like, this is it. The reveal. He's like, it was cold, then hot, like you. And just starts groping her.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool too. I mean, this movie's full of like really pretentious stylistic flourishes that are not like served well by the material.
what? You didn't like the subway ride?
Well, so like while he's doing this, like there's the benefit is going on in the background, and then like there's a shot where like the camera just sort of like tilts on them like sideways, and then suddenly they're in bed. Like it fades to them being in bed. I don't know. It was
I like
really
that.
It was
masterful.
impressive. I
That
like
was
that.
cool.
You got
Yeah.
the sense like you felt like seduced by him in that moment, like the power that he had over her. Like she doesn't know where she is anymore.
Yeah.
She doesn't even give a shit about those 2 minutes.
That whole-
She's about to have 2 even better minutes.
That
herself.
whole scene walked a weird line between seductive and predatory, and I guess maybe that was the
That's the
intent.
That's
point.
clearly the intent. Yeah,
I guess
yeah.
that-
no, because
that
he's a
was the
fucking
intent.
alien now. Like it's creepy, but it's still sexy because
Yeah.
it's two
Yeah.
sexy
It
people.
works.
It worked pretty well.
I mean, Johnny Depp is sexy. And so that work. I mean, it's not, you know, I would say it would be better if he had not spoken during that scene. If he had not said like weird things.
Yeah.
Speaking of weird stylistic flourishes, remember the scene where she's in the toy store and the camera is just spinning
orbiting inside the
around?
circus tent?
Yeah, while they're inside
That
a
was
circus
fine.
tent.
That was fine.
That was terrible.
Because it kind of fit the. So basically, that scene is she's like shopping at a like hilarious toy store.
Well,
like
because
the
she
most,
gets pregnant.
The most 1990s like peak retail teddy bear store you could ever commit
FAO
to film.
Schwartz, I'm sure.
Probably a player piano in there.
I'm sure there's a
Separate
player
backgrounds.
piano.
I totally forgot about FAO Schwartz.
And she's being hunted by the guy from the Skynet guy from Terminator 2, who's a NASA scientist.
That was who that was.
Yeah.
Is familiar.
And he has the documents about how your husband is an alien now.
Well, he has documents about how he's like all his medical records of how he's changed slightly.
Yeah, he brings an entire case full of file folders, and it's like, hey,
And he looks
you
grizzled.
gotta read this. And she wants to know what's going on with her husband, yet this guy who has brought her all the receipts from across the country, she's like, leave me alone. No.
Because he doesn't seem legit. Like, he seems like he's unhinged. And I think she
he
feels
seems
threatened.
sort of crazy.
Like, she's already dealing with a husband who's abusing her. Like, the last thing she needs is, like, another shifty man in her life.
So
That's the sense I had.
but the whole conversation's unhinged, and so I did like how the camera's kind of orbiting around when he's being all manic.
It just felt like too much. It was moving too
I
fast.
mean,
It was orbiting.
very...
It was orbiting during like the banal dialogue before they even like started talking about serious shit.
It was very film student. It was very Saw.
Well, here's the thing. I was trying to find out about the production of this movie, and I could find no information.
Oh my god! I've got some facts for you. So
hit us with the facts.
The facts. I think two people who deserve all the credit in the world for the work on this movie. I will say, one, this movie looked gorgeous. Does anybody disagree with me? Like, production design, cinematography, it looked...
No.
I thought, like, for what it was, it looked great. So there's a dinner scene where I thought, this looks a lot like The Cook, the Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover. Like, this looks like a Peter Greenaway movie. Do you guys know that one?
Nope.
Patrick, we've talked about it.
Never seen it still.
One of the most beautiful and elaborately, like, designed movies of the past, like, 30 years. The production designer was Peter Greenaway's production designer.
Oh, wow.
Really stooping low to work on this turd.
Yeah.
But, like, I think the sets are great. Their house, the house
beautiful.
they live in,
The house is cool.
which is, like, kind of interesting because it feels like every time we go back there's another room that didn't exist before. Did you guys have any sense?
Yeah.
It's like, how many
You're
libraries
right.
do you have?
Like, how big is your penthouse?
Yeah, it seems like it's just got like one kind of large open floor plan, but then you keep going back and
there's like a
all
grandfather
these,
clock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, here's the room where we can murder people.
Well, the cinematographer is, I don't remember his name, but he has worked regularly with Steven Spielberg. He did Steven Spielberg in the film Amblin, his first short.
Yeah.
He did E.T., Empire of the Sun. So clearly knows what he's doing. Like, I think the movie, though it looks, I guess if I could describe this movie, it looks very David Finchery. It looks like The Game, I think.
Yeah.
It's got the same sort of
That's
color
fair.
palette.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But for its time, like, I thought it was a beautiful movie. I kind of wanted to keep watching just to see the locations and the costumes and stuff.
Well, speaking of production design, I thought it was interesting that they didn't apparently have the rights to use the NASA logo, or they were
really?
afraid to use the NASA logo
Because they had like a different, a weird, like it was.
They didn't have the NASA logo. They
Yeah.
had this like.
Well, they had like a rocket ship.
They had like they had like a patch that was like a flight patch.
yeah.
But then the logo was actually like a ellipse of some sort.
Yeah.
with no
Oh,
letters. in
yeah.
That
it.
was on the briefcase, too.
That was on the briefcase. That was on the
documentary.
wall of the commission control. It was on all, like where you would expect to see the NASA logo. So I guess they just figured if their movie was about like NASA fucking up astronauts,
Maybe they
didn't-
showed it to NASA, and NASA was like, "Hell no."
I don't know because they do say it's NASA,
Maybe NASA was like, "Make a better movie, and we'll give you our logo."
and I don't know to what extent NASA has the right to control their trademark.
Yeah.
Because it's a public thing. So I just thought that was interesting.
That is interesting. It's weird because, like, especially reading reviews of this movie, everybody mentions NASA at some point, and no, it's not stated at all that this is NASA in the film.
Well, you know,
But it's a very...
Well, it is stated.
No, go ahead.
It is stated. You just don't see the logo. Which is
he
weird.
says like, "I work for NASA" multiple times.
That's what makes
No.
it weirder. Yeah, it's all NASA. But
NASA.
I mean, I don't.
It's a hashtag for you.
Just because they do use the way that they film to build suspense with the way that they like circle around her in the toy store, and then later on she's on a subway trying to run away from Johnny Depp, and it's crazy cuts and stuff. Look, I know you guys are way more astute film critics than me, but it built suspense for me.
It worked for you.
I think it was suspenseful, and I was like, like, what's gonna pop out? I was ready for like a jump scare or something.
Yeah.
I thought they worked for me, so I'm just putting that out there.
I thought it worked
That's
to
interesting.
kind of paint the mental state of the woman.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It didn't affect me, but they do get more mileage than they probably should out of, like, there's a couple little jump scares which are just like, oh, Johnny Depp shows up in a place you wouldn't
Even though
expect
you
him.
see him in
she
the background before.
Yeah, he like walks past and then she closes the fridge door and he's there.
Yeah.
That's in the middle
no,
of a ridiculous dance sequence as well.
Yeah.
I wonder why they put that in there. Why?
That was
why.
weird.
There's a scene in the middle where she turns on the radio and it's Latin music, and there's a probably minute and 20-second scene where she's just dancing alone and like opens the fridge and squirts whipped cream into her mouth. Why? It's so doesn't fit with anything else.
We haven't even talked about the radios in this movie.
One of my favorite parts, actually.
Like, really cool, but I don't feel like it was handled all that well. Like, that should have been creepy as fuck. So basically what I'm gathering is that, like, the people who are Johnny Depp and his partner, and I guess, like, his partner's wife, Shrek's wife, like, can hear the aliens communicating with them through the radio, like, through certain frequencies.
Yeah.
And they have these, like, old-timey, like, I don't even know what you'd call them. Just like old-fashioned, like 50s, like radio sets that had the speakers built into them, and yeah, right. Shrek's wife kills herself with one in the bathtub.
Yeah,
by like looks like she was masturbating with it. The way they frame it, I thought that was really kind of gratuitous.
Not my thought.
Didn't think about that.
I was a little horny when I watched this movie, I guess.
Wow.
A little turned on. Ready to
I liked that visual, actually. It was an interesting, horrifying sort of visual.
It was
that
basically The Ring,
expecting.
though. It was basically the girl hunched up in the closet in The Ring.
I did not
But this
expect
movie
that.
came before The Ring, so...
Wow.
influential landmark film.
No, that subway sequence, though, I agree. I thought it was effective. That seems pretty divisive. I feel like you guys didn't like it, right?
I thought it was fine.
It didn't do anything for me.
I was impressed with that. I was impressed with the editing work, and I was impressed with how it kind of brought me inside her, tortured psyche at that point.
There was a point.
Fuck the toy store scene, though. That was stupid.
That was ridiculous.
There was a point in this movie, like 3/4 of the way through, if not more, where I was actually... Now, I did see this movie on pay-per-view, like Elizabeth said, when it came out, like when it was on pay-per-view. So I was like 10 or 11. But...
In that version, they said cunt.
Geez, I don't know.
Chris didn't know
probably
what a cunt was.
I don't know what to
it
believe
was.
anymore. Yeah. My babies might be aliens for all I know.
But there was a point, even having seen this movie before, 3/4 of the way through or so, where I thought maybe she's just crazy. And that would be interesting. Because we don't really see enough.
I would have liked that better.
Well, that's, again, Rosemary's Baby does the same thing to build suspense. And I like that. I like wondering whether or not she's crazy. That's kind of the fun
Rosemary isn't crazy, though.
No, there were... how recently have you seen it?
A year ago, 2 years ago.
I mean, I've seen it a few times, and, like, I don't know, there are definitely moments where even though I've seen it, there are times I'm like, I still get kind of, like, swept up in it. I'm like, I could really, like... believe that she's just crazy right now. And she does, certainly, because she's being like gaslit by every man in the fucking world, or at least in that apartment complex. And this movie kind of has the same thing going on, where like you wonder, is it just hormones, is it just paranoia?
Well, because Johnny Depp doesn't seem like enough of a menace. And again, we don't know the previous Johnny Depp well enough to know that he's being super creepy. So he does some mildly creepy stuff, but like he seems just like, yeah, maybe you're just a kind of a straight-laced pilot dude.
And like
it
doesn't come out that he's like he only becomes truly creepy in the very end of the film.
The last scene is when you get the indisputable evidence that he's actually a bad guy.
And for much of the film, it's emphasized how lucky she is and what a great husband he is, and like all that.
I like that stuff because like on the outside looking in, like they're beautiful people. He's he can quit his job with NASA and go and do something else. Like he's gainfully employed or employable. Like from the outside it looks great, but on the inside it's hell, I guess. I don't know. We don't spend enough time on the inside of the relationship or in the interior of Charlize Theron's mind. Like there's this whole thing about like didn't like her parents die or something and they never follow through with
they're
that.
just like
She saw the devil when she was 4.
Yes. Also, one of the funniest moments is I watched this movie.
An Alien Covenant reference that absolutely no one will get.
Yeah, I mean, but that's kind of what we call it now. Because in Alien Covenant, Billy Crudup's character, like 3/4 of the way through the film or 2/3 of the way through the film, for no reason, is like, with the most gravitas he can muster, is like, I saw the devil when I was 4. But there's nothing like before or after.
And then he just
to
gets
substantiate that, and he like dies later on. So yeah, anytime there's like a intriguing plot device that's dropped and never mentioned again. But I think they were just doing that in this movie too, kind of just build a case for she's actually just crazy and seeing things.
I just feel like it was very haphazardly done.
The German gynecologist was lovely though.
That was weird. It never occurred to me that she might be crazy. That never crossed my mind, and I wouldn't have wanted to see this movie in that way. I think because this movie came off to me as sort of a weird hybrid of like a a sci-fi thing and some sort of marital drama, not a romantic comedy by a long stretch, but it felt like a weird, like they were trying to graft elements of like a sci-fi thing onto, this could conceivably be just also redone as a more literal story about a husband and a married couple who's not himself anymore, and neither angle seemed to work to me. Like, there's not enough sci-fi. I kept going, I want to see a fucking alien. I better see an alien before the end of this. There's not enough sci-fi in it for it to be sci-fi and to appeal to a sci-fi audience. And I don't think there's really enough to appeal to the other, whatever the audience is for that marital drama kind of thing.
Yeah, I had the same question. I was trying to figure out
anything.
Who's the audience for this movie. And I guess it was a huge box office bomb. But I mean, I can only speak for my family because I think the whole family watched it, me and my mom and my dad.
Fun for the whole family.
But like, this was 1999, so like, I was already like watching the X-Files and stuff and into like outer space stuff, and my dad was too. And the guy from the X-Files movie is actually in this movie, the What About My Man guy. He's the NASA chief. What about my man? Anyway.
So the guy with the southern guy?
Yeah, like the guy who like has the long face and the big teeth. Yeah. Anyway. So we're into space, we're into sci-fi, aliens, and then, I don't know, we probably just decided to watch it, but then I think my mom watched it, and there is the, like, drama stuff going on, too,
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because actually right now they're making a movie today in 2017 about...
today in 2017.
families when the man has been, or when one of the family members has been in space for a long time, has been stationed at the ISS or has been on a mission and come back, and how re-entry is really hard, and how and how they're often different. And so I think that is actually like a pretty relevant topic that is true.
There's
that
so
does
much
happen.
to mine here, and they don't explore it at all. Like, I remember, so I mentioned earlier that, like, so we learned that Johnny Depp is an astronaut because we see the fucking shuttle take off. They never explain it, and like, it really doesn't matter for the rest of the movie. Suddenly he's interested in like aircraft, like planes and shit. And I feel like there's so much to explore just with like, okay, like obviously this is about a relationship that is in trouble. But there's almost no sci-fi element to it whatsoever. It almost doesn't matter that he's an astronaut.
You get a better sense of the troubled relationship in like Apollo 13. Like,
that's that's a film I thought of in comparison.
Yeah, because they spend some time before they get into space.
Oh, when her wedding ring falls down the shower ring.
Oh my God, great stuff.
All right.
There's better movies about space fucking you up than this one.
That's true.
If I will say, my last comment on this movie that I feel like I need to make before we take a quick break. It seems like everybody's ready to do that.
Before we review it.
We've got to review it too. Well, I don't know. I think our opinions are pretty clear. I don't know.
Well, we'll see.
We'll find out.
If I had seen this movie when I wanted to see it in 1999, I would have been bored on my fucking mind.
All right. Well, when I saw it, I do remember it being like, it didn't blow my mind, but I did find a couple of the scenes super suspenseful. Like the scene where she's watching the tape and like Johnny Depp shows up and then he's like got the tape. I remember that being like the most suspenseful scene I had seen at that point in my life.
And that held up for me. I thought that was still I was on edge during that.
That was one of the better parts.
Yeah.
Did your parents like it?
Probably enough. I don't know. Didn't talk about it. Anyway, all right. So let's. What do we think about this movie, Patrick? Would you view it, cue it, or screw it?
I mean, I'm going to go with screw it, but not my strongest screw it. There were elements that I've admired that I've mentioned already, but it's still not anything enough to recommend that anyone even throw this on their queue to watch at some point. Chris, what did you think?
I would have to say screw it. That's really all I have to say. There are some things I liked, but.
Screw it. Watch Rosemary's Baby. If you've seen it before, watch it again. If you watch it every year like I do on Halloween, don't wait till next Halloween. Just watch it right now, you dummy. Elizabeth?
You big dummy.
I would say screw it. Sadly, it's not that good, but I would say view it on mute for the sex scene. Don't listen to Johnny Depp.
But the
subtitles off.
Subtitles off, but watch the 2.5 minute sex scene.
But the music on the sex scene was great.
Yeah, well, play the song on your tape recorder.
Maybe we'll go to break with the sex scene music.
I mean, there's some things I did like, and I found it pretty suspenseful. But I don't think that anyone needs to watch this movie, and we'll reveal the ending in a moment.
I will say, don't watch this movie. Just look up The Astronaut's Wife in 3 minutes on YouTube. It's like every scene that's worth seeing. It's pretty concise.
There are some
Is
scenes
that what you
that are
actually
worth
watched,
seeing.
Steve?
Yeah, I was gonna say, is that how you consumed this movie?
Yeah, you got me.
All right, well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we've talked about most of the movie. We're just going to kind of spoil and tell you how it all ends. So if you want to hear that, stick around.
And we're back.
Fucking A!
We
I had to get that in there. That was one of my favorite lines. Now that we're talking about the ending of the movie. You guys don't remember?
I remember.
I don't
Oh
remember what
my
you're talking
fucking
about.
god. Okay, explain.
All right. Well, all right. Climax of the movie is basically. I don't even know what precipitates it. It doesn't really build up to it gracefully. But Charlize Theron races home, running away from her husband. She grabs like the toaster. She grabs the radio. She floods the house, and she's like threatening to electrocute herself and the alien babies that she carries inside her if Johnny Depp doesn't back off. And Johnny Depp has a scene where he's like, "You remember all those years ago when you said you didn't like me going into space, and I said I would bring down a little piece of heaven for you?" Well, fucking A! And he like
Throws
some shit. He's like, "I did it."
That scene is like a fucking John Woo action set piece when the water starts flooding
Yeah,
down from
in
the balconies.
slow-mo.
It's so
Great
Also,
stuff.
why is like
It's a
the
lot.
chief engine of death or suicide, I guess, in this movie? Why is the main like method of suicide
electricity,
Yeah.
electrocution. I don't know. Who
dropping
fucking
an
cares?
electrical appliance into a bunch of water?
I liked
think
it.
they
You don't
just
see
do
that too
it-
often.
I think they just
No, but
do
why
it
twice?
so that I think they just do it so that the electricity can free the alien form from the host, because you see it vaguely after Johnny Depp gets
But
electrocuted.
how would they know that?
I don't know.
Okay,
it's
look,
probably explained
it's-
somewhere in
No,
there.
here's why.
It's not explained.
The first, okay.
You're
That's
giving them
so
too much credit.
to say. Number one, Shrek's wife kills herself with a radio.
Fiona,
Yeah.
killed herself with a radio.
Which is fine. It's one way to kill yourself. That's what she chooses.
Yeah.
She's in the shower.
She's in the shower.
She drops the radio into the water to electrocute herself.
I believe that Charlize thought of that and was inspired and was like, "Oh, good idea. I remember that." And that's the only reason
Wait,
that
but why did she kill herself?
Good idea.
she did. Who? Shrek's wife?
Yeah.
I
kill
don't know.
the
To kill the alien
To
babies.
kill the alien, but if she electrocuted herself, then we know that the alien entity traveled somewhere else. So
Well, I
where
don't
did
think
it
But
go?
it wasn't
babies-
being held by her. Her husband had the alien entity on him.
Yeah.
Oh, she's worried about the
she was
alien
just carrying
babies.
babies.
Okay.
Which
Just the babies.
you don't see what happens to that alien entity. It's probably not separated from the host because he's not electrocuted. He just drops dead. The heart's not strong enough. Or whatever.
Yeah. But so what happens is like it all comes together and Johnny Depp comes to the house and what's her name? Jillian, Charlize Theron, has like found him out. He backhands her across the face. He's full out. He's like, "It's true. I'm an alien and you're having my babies." And she like takes a step back and falls down the stairs.
She throws herself down the stairs intentionally.
Okay, she throws herself
to miscarry
upstairs
the babies.
To miscarry the babies. And so she gets in the hospital, whatever, and at this point he's just fully out as an alien. And he's like visiting her in the hospital. He's come out. It's Pride Month.
Don't trivialize coming out.
I'm sorry. I thought I meant he's an alien.
And you are out as a homophobe. Elizabeth. How does it feel?
I'm sorry.
Don't be a hater.
I'm not. He's an alien. He's confessed. I don't know how to say it now.
Holy fucking shit.
All right, so he's out. What happens next?
And then he visits her in the hospital. She's freaked out, and that's when she runs. Finally, she runs out of the hospital. He's following her. She runs home. She sets up the radio situation, and that's it.
Runs home, and I don't know. That was just a weird quasi chase sequence. She goes all across New York on foot, taking the subway, taking the taxi.
Twin Towers
At one
in
point,
view.
they're just walking through a park, kind of looking at each other.
So weird. And then she turns and walks quickly in the other direction.
Yeah. There's the part where he's feeling her, her energy through the elevator wall. while she's in the adjacent elevator, even though her elevator took off several seconds before.
So
yeah.
weird. Well, because he can
according to
control
the
the baby.
novelization, I didn't think that was clear in the movie, and I looked it up, and according to the novelization and apparently the script, because yes, I want to read the novelization.
I was going to say, have you read this?
No,
Was
I
it a
see if I
book
can find it.
first?
No.
Oh,
no.
okay.
No, and that's a funny thing too, is like Astronaut's Wife sounds like such a like 50s title. Like I was so sincerely expecting to see like in the credits like based on a short story by Richard Matheson.
By Ray Bradbury.
Right.
Richard Matheson, yeah, Jesus.
But anyway, apparently he can control. He can't control the babies. He can like detect wherever she is because he can like sense their energy.
Right.
It's like telepathically linked to them.
Right.
All right. So
once-
that's the ending, I guess. Right. So we
Yeah,
just,
someone say it.
Yeah, so she drops the radio. What? No, toaster. What is
What
she
happens
holding?
is you think she's gonna kill herself, and that's
No,
her.
you
and,
don't.
No, well, that's what she presents. The threat. She's like, you know what? Don't come any closer. I'll kill myself. And she's on the stool. She's got her toes in the water, and the kitchen sink has overflowed. But what you don't
And
see,
every faucet, every water
well, no, because
bearing
that's the
thing
twist.
in the house is overflowing.
That's the twist, because that's you'd think it's just the kitchen. She's gonna kill herself, but then you find out that the water comes down over the upstairs onto Johnny Depp, who's been very careful to avoid the water. And now that he's wet, she takes her feet off the floor. She's on the wooden stool, and she plugs the thing in and fries Johnny Depp.
That's what I was talking about, the John Woo scene. Like, all that needed was just, like, a flock of doves to come down after he died.
One thing, this is actually neither here nor there, but one thing I actually did really like that I want to give a shout out to is when Johnny Depp's on his way to confront her in the kitchen, he comes down the stairs, and I think it's supposed to be his wedding ring,
It is.
even though it's on his right hand.
Yeah.
But he slides down the banister, like kind of like Freddy Krueger coming down, scratching up
That's
the
a nice
walls.
touch.
And it's kind of just like, I feel like that's just something Johnny Depp came up with, because I don't see anyone else.
Seems like
Well,
she should
shout
have
out
put
to
it on
that
the
scene.
other
That
hand.
scene, if you're listening, you're great.
But
you're amazing.
The sound design on that was really cool, though.
Yeah. And I didn't even
It was-
care
it was
that the
a
wedding
creepy
ring was
little
on the
sound,
wrong
yeah.
hand. Yeah.
I care.
Yeah.
I just want to do that right now. I wish I had a ring.
Yeah, let's get married.
Run it
so we
along
can-
the edge of the table here.
And so then once he gets electrocuted, the jellyfish-like alien form separates from his dead body and inhabits Charlize.
Right into Charlize.
Fast forward 10 years or something, she's had the baby, she's living with another pilot.
She's
and they're
got
living
long red hair.
And look, now here's the thing, the aliens' motivations are so unclear. Johnny Depp's motivations are so unclear, but basically, like, the long game is the aliens have transmit themselves to Earth with a frequency that, like, assumes your soul. And then Johnny Depp decides to go into the private sector to design a new type of warship that, like, will eliminate all of Earth's defenses or something. And it can only be piloted by twins, and so he has to, like,
And there's like the whole
conceive
thing with
alien
twin
twins.
computers too that
Yeah.
communicate with each other. I was like, what is the aliens' end game here?
So I think like they're gonna usher in like an alien assimilation to Earth or something, but it's so poorly
and
defined.
is the sequel still forthcoming?
I hope so. Let's get the rights.
The alien,
astronauts with
Prometheus is the sequel. Prometheus is the sequel.
Prometheus
It's
takes
the same
place,
character.
The astronauts'
Charlize
offspring.
is still just an alien-possessed bitch.
But here's the thing. You know what? Who's the victim? Charlize is fucking fine at the end of that movie.
She
She's
seems
a-
happily married. She's got two
She's
cute
happy.
kids.
She's an alien.
She's
now.
not her, though. She's the alien.
The alien is happy.
Well,
Charlene is
Charlize,
gone.
yeah, Charlize was
Charlene.
miserable. The alien Charlize is happy. Normal Charlize was miserable.
I felt...
Normal Charlize was
Except
not
for that
miserable
one
at
scene
the
where she was
beginning.
dancing and eating fucking whipped cream. She was terribly miserable.
Well,
She was
not at the
very unhappy.
beginning.
They got two
Yeah, she
cute
was happy at
kids.
the beginning. They were happy together. I
Two
sympathize
cute-
with her character a
Two
lot.
cute little twins.
Totally well-adjusted kids who listen to the alien drone on their headphones on the school bus.
I think it's a happy ending.
I think it's a happy ending. No victims.
I think the aliens deserve to wipe out the human race. if
She has
that's
a
their end
new
goal, 'cause
sexy
honestly,
man
Her
husband.
second husband is arguably sexier than Johnny Depp.
Yeah,
A step up.
and he's happy.
he's cute. He didn't have a fake accent or a douchey bleached haircut.
Agree.
They're like living on the base, or just I gotta imagine they're living
And
on
they
the
live so
base
close to
because
work. It's so convenient. They're
Yeah.
living the ideal life.
Yeah.
No commute.
Wow.
it's a beautiful alien love story.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then it's over. That's it. That's like a minute and a half probably.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
little epilogue.
Short and sweet. I wish they could have shortened and sweetened up the rest of the fucking movie.
Oh,
Honestly, there's no
Jesus.
reason why they couldn't have made this movie half as long and moved that Johnny Depp encounter where he gets electrocuted in the like what would be the middle of the movie. Like just have Terminator 2 show up and say, "Hey, your husband's an alien," because really she doesn't find out anything after he says that. I mean, he kills her sister, but who cares?
Yeah, there's a short scene that, like, you think you're going to find out what happened in space. but you still don't find out what happened in
I know,
space.
because we go to space and we still don't see any fucking aliens.
Yeah.
CGI was pretty good, though, by 1999 standards. I mean, it wasn't Jar Jar Binks, but...
Yeah.
I thought that was... Well, you know what wasn't good is the shot of the takeoff of the rocket. It was, like, so blurry.
It might as well have just been a cardboard cutout.
Yeah, I could have, like, waved it back and forth in front of the screen.
Yeah. You know, I love bad movies that have lines of dialogue in them that sum up the movie or my feelings about it. And this movie was a major insult to the brain. Those are my final thoughts on it. And that line comes back again in a flashback.
Yeah.
My favorite line of this movie is when Charlize Theron's sister says to her, "Men are like parking spaces. Yes. The good ones are all taken, and the ones that are left are handicapped."
I texted that to Patrick the night I saw this.
I could not. My jaw dropped when I heard that.
It's a good line.
Good line, bad movie. So what are we watching next week, guys?
Astronauts and aliens. We're coming back to Earth next week. We're going straight to hell to watch American Poltergeist 2.
Oh, God.
Well, American Poltergeist 1 was so fucking good. I'm stoked for this.
Well, American Poltergeist 2 apparently has nothing to do with American Poltergeist 1, but we'll find out. We'll find out. Maybe it does. I hope it has the same cast at least.
Yeah, me too. I want to see Diana Eastbrook
I hope
again.
it has the same cast as the astronaut's wife.
I just can't wait. Astronaut's Wife could be a franchise. I think they need to reboot Astronaut's Wife.
I agree. Well, they did with Alien
The gritty
Covenant.
reboot.
And then they need to have sequels that are also about the family members of, like, people who have been to space.
I want a future where there's an Astronaut's Wife, like, trilogy Blu-ray box set. Somebody make that happen. Make
it
these
happen.
fucking
The
movies.
Astronaut's Wife, the Astronaut's Son,
The Astronaut's Widow is the one I came
Astronaut's
up with,
Widow.
right? That's the direct sequel.
Yeah. The Astronaut's Husband.
The Astronaut's Wife Reloaded. All right, we should wrap it up. We've
Okay,
exhausted
yeah, we
this
got
movie.
nothing else to say. But yeah, so join us next week for a discussion of American Poltergeist 2. And until then, as always, check us out online at everyhorrormovieonnetflix.com, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, EHMON Cast. We're out there. Leave us a comment. Leave us a review. We'd love to hear from you.
Roberta Shirok produced the show.
Chris, what if you want to troll us?
Troll us? Absolutely. We'll troll you back. Don't worry about it. So yeah, until then, have fun and, watch out for those alien babies.